Thank you. Public comment. So at this time of the meeting, we open it up for members of the public to make comments about usually agenda items, but it can be about our educational programs in general. During this, I remind people that this is an opportunity to speak on an issue. It is not to become where we directly talk about individuals derogatorily. If you want to compliment somebody on a job that they do well, that's a little bit different. We don't identify students by name. We'd prefer, even if it's your own student, that you don't name them just for privacy purposes. Not everybody needs to know who all's out on the web listening in. So I don't know how many people are desiring to make a public comment tonight, but I was in believing that there would be quite a few. And by our policy, I would like to go and limit the time period for public comments to no more than 30 minutes and hold it to 2 minutes, no more than 2 minutes per individual presenter. I think 2 minutes, you can probably make your point, and then we can carry on. So with that being said, I would entertain, we have some people online that will either raise their hand or send something. Can they send something in chat?
They can send something to me.
And then we can either call on them to speak, or we can read their comment if they do it by chat. So at this time, if there's anybody like to come up, we request when you come up, you identify yourself. We'd also like for you to identify what town you're from. That helps us board members who represent you know where you're coming from. So at this time, I'll open.
Start the line.
You can start the line.
Hi, so Laura from Status. And I'm kind of sad that, you know, we talked over the last year specifically about getting public to come, public to participate, and now we're being limited, so I'll try to be quick, but I'm pretty disappointed. I'm really disappointed with the way that the rollout has happened with the kids coming back. We did pull our kids out last year and put them in private school, and we thought this year would be different. We know COVID is not going away. We know lots of things are changing every day, and I'm just disappointed that we decided to come back to the district. So I know there's a deadline in October, is it, if kids are enrolled? Not a question to you, but so we'll look at, you know, kind of what happens over the next week. I don't think anyone needs to bring up the disappointment with the bus situation today, and how disheartening it is that the district has had this problem for years and not been able to recruit or, you know, accommodate the declining staff in multiple areas. And it's just really hard to continue to watch it fail. You guys have failed. Every single one of you have failed us.
Except you tried to stick up for us.
Thank you, please, sir. If you want to speak about an issue, you can come to the mic, but we're not going to point people out and do things.
I'll be there.
Hi, I'm Megan Toole from Status. I have a speech, so I'll just run through it as fast as possible. So I'm here today to strongly advocate for mask wearing in all schools at all times. I work very closely with many schools in the areas, and pretty much all the ones I work with have universal masking in place already. Some of the schools that I deal with have already had outbreaks, and they've only, they're completely masked. So what we're gonna do is have larger outbreaks and not easily controlled. I understand masks aren't the end all be all for COVID, but it's necessary to use as many precautions that are available. Includes vaccinations, masking, social distancing, and washing. All those put together makes getting COVID less likely, but each one you take away makes it more likely. I understand that some people do not want masks because it's their right, but your mask protects me and my mask protects you. So if my child is going to school with a mask, she's protecting others, but who's protecting her? and she's not old enough to be vaccinated, so that doesn't add that layer of protection. Schools down south have been open for a month. Within that time, we've seen trends where children are being admitted to hospitals at an alarming rate. Children are dying. The 99% child survival rate is not true, first of all. Still in the high 90s, but it's 99. But it's not 99, but let's say it is 99. That means for every 100 children in the school that comes down with COVID, one's gonna die. Are you okay with that? Like, are you okay with your kid coming home and saying, oh, my best friend died?
So that's 2 minutes if you want to wrap up quickly.
Okay. So I just really encourage to be masked completely instead of the red, green, yellow.
All right, thank you. Next, please.
I have to, I guess, come off what Laura said. Shame on every one of you. Shame on every one of you. I'm a mother who's fighting for my child's life. He has panic attacks, and I've watched him stop breathing because of these. I'm now fighting with the school to get him an education. So not only can he breathe and stay alive, but he can get an education. Everyone says, we will email you today, we'll email you today, we'll email you today. I've got no emails. Shame on every one of you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Reddy. I want to inform you all, my children will be going to the school that is assorted for them without a mask. You're gonna need to figure out how to accommodate them. You've given us no choices. We have no choices. My choice, only choice available to me is to send my kid to school. If you have other children at the school who need to wear masks, that is a special accommodation for those children and should have special needs for them in a separate classroom if that's the case. You have 2 classes per grade. There's no reason why you can't ask parents who wants their kids to have masks and who doesn't. Like in a restaurant, back when there was smoking and no smoking. Super simple solutions, very easy, we can do it. So my kids exist, I live in Litchfield, they're going to school tomorrow and they're not gonna wear masks. So we're gonna have to figure that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody online yet?
I do have one person online.
Okay, we'll go there.
Okay, the first person online is Jasmine. Go ahead, Jasmine. Jasmine, are you there? Oh, hold on, just a sec. Jasmine, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, I'm a mother to a first grader that goes to Sabattis Primary School. And we need to bring up a point because we need to know who is in charge of the buses this year. What happened to the entire district today is absolutely inappropriate. The lack of oversight without letting us know as parents ahead of time that we are in for this could be even a possibility when everybody in charge in the board of directors knew that this was an issue and nobody told a single parent to prepare for this. Letting us know as parents last minute that tomorrow there will be no buses is absolutely uncalled for. Second of all, the letter that I received when my child got home today, the letter that I received had no details in it. The letter I received when she was sent home said your child may be remote. That left me not to know anything. When you send letters home to us as parents, we need to know, first of all, clearly, directly, and what to expect. The oblique way that this has gone about is disgusting. So what we want and what the district owes to every single parent is we need to know who is in charge of the buses, what the plan is to be done about it, where there's a lack in oversight, and who's going to take responsibility for letting us know last minute that this was happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, stay online.
If there's another one, we
Yep,
will.
there's another one. I have Elizabeth.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Elizabeth and I live in Litchfield and I have 2 children and I am pro-mask and I'm pro-inclusivity. I do not want my child in a special needs class because they are making the choice to wear a mask. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have nobody else with their hand raised.
Okay, so we have nobody else online. Anybody else here?
I watched the last.
Can I have your name, please?
My name's Terry Wayne. I live in Spadus, Maine.
Okay,
I watched the last school board meeting and it was completely disgusted that one person from our community on this board actually stood up for our children and what most of us believe in. I'm not saying everybody, most of us. Okay, and I watched you specifically shut him down over and over again. Laugh at him, whatnot. You have children in this school board?
not anymore.
Okay, so why are you here? We should be able to make the choices for our children in our community.
That is correct.
That's all I've got to say, and I'll be on the ballot this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I am Linda. I'm from Sedatus. I'm born and raised in Sedatus. I've gone through the Sedatus school system my entire life, from kindergarten to high school. I am very disappointed that we're not being given the choice for our children to wear a mask. I don't want to stop any parent from allowing their child to wear a mask. If your child wants to wear a mask, great, wear a mask. But my kid should not have less oxygen going to his big brain so he can't breathe appropriately. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to us. It's a little frustrating that now we're hearing about all the children who have died. And it's terrible. It's sad that kids died. But none of the kids that died of COVID. They all died with COVID. Every single one of them had, other circumstances that caused their deaths. I think we owe it to our children to try and do better. Give them more opportunities to make choices for themselves. They're smart kids and they deserve that chance.
Thank you.
Somebody online.
Has somebody else online?
Yep. Last name of Yeton. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hi, I am.
Can I have your name, please? First?
My name is Jessica.
Thank-
I am a resident of Sebatis. I have 2 children that are within the district. However, I have chosen not to send them to school given the lack of layered mitigation measures that are in place as observed when I attended both open houses. As all the most of the board members know, as I have started emailing with most of you as of the 31st of August. So much of this will be a review. However, for it to be on the public record, I am here to request that the plan that is written by RSU4 that was initially set out on June 9th, that is still, I believe, the one that is being followed, be reviewed and revised to align with the CDC recommendations regarding masks, social distancing, not only in the class layouts, but as well as in the gym and in the hallways, to include visual cues and reminders as not only children, but I think all people need those types of reminders. I would like the plan to be corrected of the misinformation that is currently listed on there. And also be reviewed as some of the reasons in which the board members provided on the meetings on 8/9, 8/11, 8/25, that they used as the reasons not to put a mask mandate in place are no longer the case. Given the low vaccination rates among Sebatis and Litchfield citizens, and the low rate in students that are eligible for the vaccination, and the unknown information regarding teacher vaccination rates. I am encouraging you to please review this, given what we know about this disease and the effects that it has not only on adults, our children, our healthcare system, and just kind of people as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Melinda Burchett, and my grandson comes to the school. My daughter came through the Savannah school system. My argument for this mandate is that there's no medical reason to wear these because your spit comes through this. These don't do anything. It's a medical fact. The CDC is waffling back and forth. Dr. Fauci is a whack job. He's doing whatever he can do to make money. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about my grandson. He doesn't care about your kid, your kid, your kid. He just cares about what goes in his pocket. The CDC has made this a political thing. That this has nothing to do with medicine, has nothing to do with science. This is all a political ploy to put you and you and you in a mask to get control over you. This has nothing to do with medicine. And you have to put our kids first, because if we don't put our kids first, we're gonna raise a bunch of nut jobs that are running this country now. And my grandson is not gonna be run by a bunch of nuts. And that's what happens to our country, and it needs to stop. And you guys have to have the cojones to start here. Stop masking our kids.
Hallelujah.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Natasha. I am not against masks, but I do think that each student should have a choice. I know for a fact that a student that didn't have the choice to wear a mask on the first day, and the student next to him was sick, and didn't have a mask on. Well, this kid that had a mask on, guess what? He tested positive. So that tells you right there, it doesn't matter if you have a mask on or not.
Thank you. Any other comments?
And nothing online.
Nothing online? Any more here in person? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Heather. I'm from Savannah. I have 4 little kids in 4 different schools, and I wanted to take a second on a different note and thank the principals, assistant principals, and teachers at all the schools. I have everyone from a little person with an IEP to a kindergartner who couldn't handle coming to school this year because it was a whole new routine for her. Andy, the other day, stopped whatever he was doing, saw her crying in the hallway, and took the time to tell her a story, offered to go and have her teacher come out, and he watched her class for the teacher's class for her so that the teacher could try to come out and talk to my daughter, make her feel better. So I just wanted to thank everyone. I think that, they are trying their best, and I don't think that we have enough praise going on. So I wanted to stand up here and just heartfelt thank everyone who's trying their best to help all my little people, to say the least.
Thank you. Are there any others?
We have one more online.
Oh, we have another one online.
Jessica?
You there, Jessica?
I hit the wrong button.
Oh,
There you go. Sorry
Can
about
Can you
that.
hear me now?
Yes, sorry about that.
All right. That's okay. So I missed the first 10 minutes. But I'm Jessica. I'm in Litchfield, and I have 4 kids in the RSU4, 1 in the high school, 2 middle school, and 1 at Cary Ricker. I am 100%, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't. Our family only wears them when we go around elderly people, and are absolutely against vaccinating ourselves or our kids. I think parents should have a choice whether they want to take the risk or not take the risk. I know some kids can't take the risk, so they should have the ability to wear one if they want to or if they feel safe. But I think people who don't shouldn't have to.
Thank you.
Are we only talking about masks right now?
No, this is a public comment, so if you,
I also have an issue with the whole bus thing being a last minute thing. I don't work, but that makes it so every person that knows I don't work reaches out and asks me to provide transportation. Another issue is the whole late start and parents trying to figure out rides for those days. So I think late start should be something that's looked into changing.
thank you. Do we have any other comments?
Am I allowed to just add a quick little, quick is good, it's not that hard. I just hope that you appreciate, you know, I know not a lot of people have come to board meetings and things before, so whether it's good, bad, you didn't want to hear it, you positive, well, I just hope that you appreciate kind of some effort that parents have put in to, and community members as well, to just attend.
And we do.
Yeah, I know you do.
We tried to get participation for years and years. And, you know,
All you gotta do is shut the buses down. right?
well, the biggest turnout was when they were going to get rid of wrestling at the high school. That one was a really big turnout. So, you know, yes, we were. All right, so at this time, we will close the public comment period and move on with our business. Thank you all for coming. Please stick around and hear what else is going on. I'm sorry, it's not a very exciting agenda tonight, like some of them, but it's business that we have to get taken care of. So we'll move on to 4.0, petitions and communications.
I have none today.
Report, superintendent's report.
Yep, so obviously we know today was a pretty tough day. You know, one of the things that we don't ever like to do is have to shut down our buses. Larry's here tonight. If he wants to talk about things we're facing, he's more than welcome. But, you know, we're short-staffed in transportation. We're trying to be incredibly creative in the way that we recruit staff to drive for us, but bus drivers don't grow on trees. And so consequently, we faced a situation where the next 3 days, we don't have enough bus drivers to run our routes. It's unfortunate. I hate it. It's not something I ever wanted to do. I did make the decision today to keep school open. I know in trying to find a compromise that works, I know people work. I'm in the same boat, and I have 4 kids in my own home. And when they can't go to school, it's tough. And so, you know, keeping schools open to be able to hopefully get as many students in as we can. You know, Larry and I met for probably an hour this morning, trying to come up with a creative way to make this work, and we just didn't have the staff. It's not a communication I ever wanted to send out, but lacking any other options, literally to the point where we were trying to subcontract runs. And the subcontractors around did not have a single driver to lend us. And their buses. So consequently, we were in a rock and a hard place.
You owe us an apology. That's not an apology.
I'm sorry, this isn't a time for interaction with the public.
So moving on, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there that our bus drivers are on strike or they all have COVID. That is not the case. We just don't have the numbers. And so consequently, I had to do what I did. Moving on, I want to give you an update. I'm sure you've seen the news. Sebattis PD is short-staffed, really short-staffed. You all supported, you know, a couple of years ago, the addition of an SRO. Currently, we don't have one. You know, they're down to 4 or 5 officers trying to patrol streets and work with us. So I did have a conversation with Lieutenant Davies today, or Acting Chief Davies, about potentially working with Andrew Scoggin until such time. So he's actually reached out to them. Hopefully we can get somebody around more than we currently have. These are great folks, but they just don't have the capacity to help us out right now. One thing to note, we had talked recently about ARP funds. We had put a survey out to the community about what we were going to spend the ARP funds on. We got great feedback. We talked about it here. I'm currently finishing up that application. We took in all of the public comment on that. I can give you a rundown of the things that I put in there so far, and Kathy has as well. Certainly, as you know, we had to set aside 20% to address learning loss. We actually set aside a little bit more than that for things like enrichment programs, after-school programs, professional development, extended school day, and things like that. We still have about 800,000 or $1 million left unallocated. I'm putting most of that towards learning loss. The other things I'm putting in there are ventilation work at the high school, as we talked about, trying to increase our transportation capabilities by offering classes and paying for people to get certified. We need to purchase a couple of vans. We've bought some vans over the last few years, but a couple of them need to be replaced. So putting those in there. We're looking at updating the camera system at Oak Hill High School. It's pretty bad. It actually, Marco and I have talked to Norma Jean about it numerous times. We need to replace that. If I put that in the budget, it impacts the taxpayer. If we can pay for it out of here, it doesn't. Furthermore, I'm also going to try to get the architect paid out of there. I don't know if that will go or not, but that's where we are currently. Like I said, I have about $1 million unallocated at this point. I'm going to put it in learning loss to save. We have a couple of years to spend this, so it will be there if we find new projects. So I will be sending that to the state for approval tomorrow. Other than that, that concludes my report. We do have some appointments. Alexis Fuller, varsity field hockey coach at the high school. Sharon Karkos, food service at Carrie Ricker. Susan Johnson, Ed Tech 3 at the middle school. Linda Martin, food service at Oak Hill High School. Diane Pelletier, bus driver. Lynn Toma, food service at Carrie Ricker. We do have 3 resignations: Lacey Toll, custodian at the middle school, Vanessa Carville, teacher at Oak Hill Middle School, and Janet Perry, special education teacher at Oak Hill Middle School.
Any questions of the superintendent? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to Kathy for the Director of CI report.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to bring up a couple of points. As today's letter went out, communication in terms of what curriculum looks like in the next few days. So pre-K 4 were sent with a packet home, so students can come to school and learn, or they can use learning on the packet. In 5 through 8, or 5 through 12, sorry, they can be synchronous or asynchronous. Students should access all of the information. So in pre-K 4, you can get information through your Seesaw account, as well as your Google Classroom if you are in 5 through 12. It's really important, if parents don't have access to either Seesaw or Google Classroom, or their student is struggling, to contact the school in the morning. We'll make sure that we can make sure that they get logged in. We did, especially with our little ones today, ensure that everyone got invited again. So we did invite all the parents, but we still have some parents who haven't accepted the invitation. So just to make sure that there's two-way communication, not one way. The beginning of the school year is obviously off and running. It is really nice to see those routines. The hum of the.
Do you have any questions about?
With all of that, you need to know that we are updating the Coda dashboard, as we mentioned before. It is on the RSU4 website. We currently have, as of this week, we have 4 positive cases. We had 1 more this evening that we're working on. So the dashboard has all of those updates. We are not calling parents for every positive case. We are only calling parents if they are deemed a close contact. So if parents want to see what the cases are in the particular schools, they can look at the dashboard. In addition, we have color-coded the schools, and you can see what color each school is. And when you enter the buildings, there's a poster that reminds folks what our school is. So if people want to know, we're not calling for every case this year, just close contacts. Thank you.
Any questions? Robbie?
Kathy, on the close contacts, if we're wearing masks, do they have to stay out of school, or can they come to school until we test them?
So if you are, based on the DOE and
Right.
CDC guidelines, if you are masked 100% of the time, you do not have to quarantine if you are close contact. Currently, we only have test right now at Oak Hill Middle School, and we have a few left at SPS. These were leftovers from a summer program at another place that we were offered and took. We are still waiting our shipment on in terms of doing the Binex testing at the school, so we haven't been able to do that in all the buildings yet, but we will. So if you are masked 100% of the time, you do not have to quarantine and stay home.
So how many kids do we have vote on quarantine now?
We currently have 12 individuals that are in quarantine due to a school closure. We have 7 in quarantine due to a community exposure. We have 7 people waiting test results, so we don't know if those will be positive or negative. We have 18 people that are coming to school in that yellow category, so are symptomatic but are wearing masks. So they have 1 or 2 symptoms in that low level. And we currently have 12 people that are in the red category, so they have those higher level risk symptoms that are staying home and accessing and learning remotely.
And all those students who have been able to come to school, have they been wearing masks?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy, I just have a clarifying question. I've heard from parents around the letters that went home today. It seems like those letters were probably created as a contingency plan because it says your student may go remote. So folks are a little confused. Can they send their kids home? Can they send their kids to school tomorrow if they can transport them, even if they got a packet? Because there's a lot of miscommunication of that.
Yeah, so it's and I don't know if you want me to answer or you.
Go ahead. Again.
So ultimately, if you can transport your child or find some form of transportation to come to school, and learning will happen. But the packet was a plan B, that if you cannot transport your child, that you can still access learning. We did not have, due to the timing, be able to ask every parent, can you come to school tomorrow or not? So we sent the packets home just in case, so that parents can make that choice.
Thank you.
Yes.
Kathy, can you define close contact?
Yep. So on our website as well, so I guess it's really important that parents can always access under the COVID-19 resources, the plan. But it actually has multiple pages and it talks about the symptoms. It also talks about what the definition of a close contact is, and then what happens if you're vaccinated or not vaccinated. And there are some contingencies. So hold on 1 second. So close contact for us, as the board had decided, was within the 6 feet, right? More than 15 minutes within a 24-hour period of a positive case.
Actually, mean when kids come to school in yellow.
Sorry, ma'am. This isn't a time for,
So all of the posters and clarification is on the website that breaks down what a close contact definition is, what that would mean if we call you, or if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. If you have symptoms, or in the different color codes, parents can actually access that on the website.
and they can call the schools or central office if they have other questions about it.
Your go-to person for your COVID questions is your school nurse. So please make sure you contact them if you have any questions regarding COVID.
To Bob's point, if they were previously masked, or if they were masked and they're close contact, they do not have to quarantine. In our recent situation, we were green prior to yesterday. So the kids were not required to wear a mask. So you're saying if they were voluntarily wearing masks during green?
Yes.
Okay.
So in our green schools, if they were wearing a mask 100% of the time, then they can be. And it does say that if a child was wearing a mask 100% of the time in the school based on teacher observations, making sure that they're appropriate and wearing correctly, the child does not need to quarantine due to our masking policy for in-school activities. This was an addition. This was the change that happened in August from the DOE and the CDC. Originally, back in June, the only way to get out of quarantine if you were not vaccinated was if you did pool testing, if the school chose pool testing. In August, they made a change and an update that if you were wearing a mask, because they were trying, the DOE and the CDC was trying to encourage universal masking. So if you wear a mask, it's your get out of jail free card to not have to quarantine. And we do have a couple of kids that have not had to quarantine, and we do not report those students if you don't have to quarantine.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to clarify because I've had to field a few questions today. So, and we're not allowing them to return to school with a negative COVID test, correct?
If you're a close contact.
Correct.
So if you are unvaccinated and you are unmasked, testing doesn't get you out of quarantine. I will say, back in the spring and in the summer, it was very easy to get testing and get your test results. We are currently having students that are getting tests 2 or 3 days to get an appointment, and then it takes 2 or 3 days to get the test results back. By that point, it's been taking quite a long time. So that's why when I reported, we do have a bunch of outstanding test results because it's been taking a long time for getting the testing done. I think a lot more people are getting tested.
Which is why our cases are going up. So do you think that we may make some change to that, given the fact that they're already out for several days awaiting test results?
It's not a choice by us, it's a CDC DOE policy.
Recommendation.
That is a policy, it's a requirement, not a recommendation.
We have to follow that.
Any questions, Kathy? Okay. We don't have a financial report, next meeting. Principals reports, we got those last time. Special ed report, Ms. Nancy.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for giving me a few minutes to provide a brief update about special education. So we have been fast and furiously in the past couple of weeks enrolling new students. We've had 24 new enrollments. I feel like it's mostly, I think August and early September. So currently we have 242 students with IEPs. I think that's a little bit lower than where we ended in June. We have about 6 EdTech openings. That's a lot to start the year. And as someone else I think mentioned, we have a social worker opening. And we, as you knew with tonight's resignation, we have a resource room teacher at the middle school also opening. And that outgoing teacher and another teacher who's taking on a lot of that case have been collaborating really well. So that's been good. The reorganization has been going pretty well in special ed in terms of buildings. We have some teachers that got to stay where they were and pretty much had their same job description in terms of resource room. We've had other teachers move to other buildings and take on some new nuances in their role, and I think that's going well as well. So that's a good thing. We have made the purchase of a new online reading supplemental program called Lexia. Some of you may have heard it. A lot of districts use it. I think it's going to be really good for kids. We provided almost 2 hours of professional development through Lexia last week. I think it's really well received. It's K-12, and the great thing about that, one of the great things about that program is kids will be able to use it on a device anywhere. And it will provide assessment data without actually pulling kids away from instruction and doing separate assessment. It assesses in real time, and that data is fed to the teacher. So it's a really good thing. We've also just made a purchase of a math program also. In special education, we don't, really use curriculums because we are special and we are differentiating for kids more than gen ed teachers probably are. So it'll be great for kids who have a lot of math instruction in the special ed setting, just to have that scope and sequence while differentiation in other ways continues. It also matches really well, aligns well with the curriculums that are being used in gen ed. So kids, as they return to gen ed, will have a lot of familiarity in terms of the language and how that program works. And then the last thing I just want to mention is we have a board certified behavior analyst who we're contracting with. Really short amount of time in the scheme of things. It'll be up to 18 hours a week. We may decide to increase that. We're starting with select buildings that do not have behavior programs or the expertise to benefit from a special education teacher with that expertise.
as well as supporting our functional life skills programming, which might have students with autism. This BCBA, as most BCBAs, which is what the acronym stands for, is Board Certified Behavior Analyst, generally has a strong expertise in applied behavior analysis. That's not to say that we want to bring that to and replace, the beautiful pieces of public school, but it will be a nice add-on for students who really need that kind of programming. So we're pretty excited about that. And she will be visiting our schools next week. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Any questions? Robbie?
Hey, Nancy, how are we doing as far as the melding of the pre-K programs being in the same building now? Is that working out?
I would have to have a principal speak to that. I don't have any, all in special education's aspects of pre-K would go through CDS.
Right.
Not us.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to let someone else answer that.
Well, it's really not a special ed question then, really, right?
No,
All right.
you're right. I guess not. So I guess I'll talk to the principal and see how it's going. I know it's been a goal for a long time to get those programs underneath the same roof, so I was just wondering how that was, it's only been 4 or 5 days, but.
I will be having regular meetings with the pre-K teachers, but really will only be in regards to students with IEPs who we would, expect to be seeing as kindergartners next year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Technology report. Norma Jean. Yeah, wait a minute. If you just want to spin right around, you are right in front of the camera, and this way we'll be able to see you. And no, that one right there, sitting on the. So if you don't need to sit there, if you could go to the mic.
I was gonna say, wasn't it impressive that Nancy could talk all the time and not fog her glasses up?
That way we can turn the camera on you and everybody can see you instead of the back of your head.
So, so Norma Jean, Technology Director for the district. I just wanted to give you a quick technology update. So the tech staff were busy all summer doing a lot of refreshes. So we refreshed the high school this summer. We also refreshed the middle school. All either grant funded or DOE funded, which was awesome. So what we did was we let the high school students take their devices home over the summer. So 9 through 11 took their devices home. The freshmen got their devices their first day of school, and we've started to deploy the new devices to the upperclassmen this week. So at the middle school, through MLTI, the device this year, if you haven't seen it, is the iPad with a keyboard case, which is amazing. And so they deployed for take home on Friday. And we also purchased for 5 and 6 through grant funding matching devices. So the entire school is the same platform, which is amazing. So now we're switching, now the devices are out. We're getting ready, helping the teachers with a seesaw, Google Classroom, everything they need for remote instruction, and also reaching out to teachers, helping them, making sure that a classroom is ready with the cameras or synchronous, asynchronous, whatever needed. So any questions for me? I have no notes.
Questions?
It's not necessarily a question. I guess it's more of a concern, not concern, but I've heard from folks that have middle school students about the cost of the device to replace. So just wondering kind of what the contingency plan is around that, just knowing that, are there grants that might be available if a young person breaks the screen of their iPad? I know it's about responsibility, but I also think that there is a real divide of, it would be a lot of money for $600 or $700.
Yep, so let me explain. So the cost of the device is on there. I think it's $374. I have to look at the document. But they also have AppleCare on them. So the only time that the full replacement cost comes into play is if we find it as what's the word I want? Negligent.
Intentional
or-
damage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And so usually there is no fee. We don't fee them. And there's also AppleCare where we can actually hopefully get that restored. So you only get to see if it's been thrown across the room or driven over by your car, or we can't replace it. So, and the board policy does have something on a max of 50 for accidental break.
Right.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Mr. Palmer, Adult Ed Athletic Report.
Good evening, Jim Palmer, Athletic Director and Adult Ed Director. So we are Head Start's fall sports, and our numbers are down a little bit. We have about 130 athletes, which still is pretty good participating in the fall. I think we're usually around 145, but we are adding ones daily as kids come to school. They're starting to join in. So one of the things that we have going on currently is our first football game will be Saturday. Unfortunately, it will be without the scoreboard as the microburst took our scoreboard down the other day. So, but I just wanted to mention Saturday's game because it's a neat game. We call it our Heroes game. We recognize and honor police, fire, rescue, and military. And we typically wear special camouflage uniforms, but this year those aren't out, so we're wearing our grays. But I invite everybody to try to attend that game. It's usually a good game. It will be on Muncie Media as well. It'll be live streamed on Muncie Media. We are, given the bus situation, we're being as creative as we can, getting athletes to events. We haven't had to not get to a game because of it yet, so we've been fortunate that way. We're able to use the vans with our roster size and have coaches drive, so that's been a plus. As far as I think somebody mentioned the schedule on online. Jordan did put it online today on the RSU4 site, so that should be up and running. And the way that we've done that with the MPA now is that it will do changes live. So if we get rained out tomorrow, which is pretty likely, if we get rained out tomorrow, I put the change into the MPA schedule. It should come up right on the RSU4 site. So as far as adult ed, we really just started rolling with adult ed. We had a staff meeting this week. We have some new staff that we're training, and we do have students that have been coming in by appointment, and they'll start coming in on a regular basis next week. But we're partnering with Lisbon again. That's been a good relationship the past 4 years, so we'll continue to do that and see how that goes.
Thank you. Any questions?
How's the softball field?
The softball field is good. It doesn't have a scoreboard either.
Yeah.
But no, it's they need to come back and just take a look at the home plate area to see how we can make that more level. But watching the rain that we've had, it hasn't been too bad. It's collected in the areas that I thought it would. But actually the seed that they put in is coming in, and so as long as they come back and take care of that, I think they'll be in great shape.
Thanks.
If you haven't had the opportunity to go see it at the high school, it's worth going to see. It looks really nice. So.
All right. Operations report.
Glenn is not here tonight. His wife is under the weather.
All right. We don't have a student rep yet.
Not yet.
Okay. Any other reports? Okay, we have no old business. Under new business, 7.1, election of a delegate to the MSBA Delegate Assembly.
So if you remember correctly, we talked about this, I think, at our last meeting. In the past, this has been held in person. It is not being held this year. I think, Bob, you've done it. I've actually done it before. Robbie's done it. Vicky's done it before. And basically, you go to the Delegate Assembly. It'll be online this year, but MSBA asks that we send a delegate to that.
What are the dates, Andy?
Oh, you would ask me that off the top of my
It's the
head.
end of October, right?
Yeah, it's the end of October. Let me get in here real quick. What's that? It's a Friday, Saturday. I believe it's the 29th and 30th, or the 22nd and 23rd, but I believe it's the 29th and 30th of October.
It's a Saturn.
Friday, Saturday.
Wow.
Yep.
It was last year too.
Same way last year.
Because they went
Right,
remote.
because it
Right.
was remote, yeah.
Yep.
Is anyone able to make those dates?
If I can do it on Saturday, Friday I work.
Okay, so the key is it's really two functions, right? There is informational seminars that take place all day the first day and half of the second day. And then they'll have a delegate assembly that will go and vote on the proposed changes to their policies and paper, which that's where the delegate then kind of goes out to that breakout room, and they had them for different regions. for that, and when it was in person, I mentioned you missed some of the seminars that were going on because you were at the delegate conference. So you could attend the delegate conference as our delegate without having to attend any of the seminars. I mean, the reality is the seminars, you pick out ones that you're interested in and go and learn about them, and then bring that knowledge back to the board for those things and for yourself. But then whoever, you know, if you can be the delegate, we're going to talk about what the board's position might be on their proposed resolutions, to give you some guidance on how the board thinks our position would be. All right. Whether or not you follow through with that, no one will know, but you'll have some understanding. So if you talk, you can go and talk and say, well, our board talked about it, we feel this way. Right. So that's going to be Saturday afternoon, I would imagine.
I believe the delegate meeting is
Friday, yes. It is
Really Friday? They moved it
Yeah,
to
because
Friday?
they're going just a half a day on Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and just, for clarification purposes, anybody can attend that. So
Yeah.
if somebody would like to attend, just let me know. I can sign them up. I don't remember what the cost, doesn't matter what the cost was. I think it's like $50. But it was, anybody can attend.
Right. Attend
All the other things.
The other things that they're going on. I don't know if they're going to record them and have them out there or not.
They did last year, I think.
Robbie?
It's been 3-4 years since I've been a delegate. I'd be the delegate if nobody else wants to do it.
We have any objections? All right, so if somebody would, because we're electing when we move in second, Robbie be our delegate.
Second that.
Okay. So moved in second, and any discussion?
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor? Super, thank you, Robbie.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. 7.2, discussion of possible actions on the MSBA 2021 resolutions.
Yes, so they were all in your packets.
Right, and there are some here.
Yep. If anybody, well, I've got.
Well, I
one
guess
extra.
there's just one or two copies there.
So if you look through these, they made some changes. These are the MSBA bylaws and resolutions. They made some changes to some of the bylaws, their positions on student absenteeism, the school board training, curriculum policies, multiple pathways, teacher evaluation, and a couple of things on administrator shortage, which, that was the one that stuck out to me. I mean, they're all, from my opinion, they all look good. I think they're smart, they're forward thinking.
I'm surprised through this whole thing, they never mentioned anything about credentialing. That was such a big.
It was a big thing. Yep, that has totally gone away, which is very interesting. But the one, with administrator shortage, it also recommends the support and reestablishment of leadership academies, which I think is huge. Those had went away a few years ago. They've started to come back. But MSBA wants to support those things. But Robbie, you're absolutely correct. Credentialing, micro-credentialing, we talked about that for days on end, and that has just disappeared.
Yeah, especially for like industrial arts.
Industrial arts,
Yeah.
more languages.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, because not every student that we have is going to go off and get a master's or doctorates or bachelor's degree in college. They're going to go out there and use their hands. And if we could have programs to help them develop those skills and give them a leg up on the way out, that's really, really beneficial.
The other piece of this too is they have some proposed resolutions, one regarding learning loss with the rationale, dropout prevention. For some of you who have been around for a while, dropout prevention was a big thing. And it had kind of gone by the wayside. MSBA is proposing to bring that back. The state is looking to reinvigorate the dropout prevention committee at the state level. So those are good things. Looking at taking a stand on binding arbitration. In collective bargaining, as you know, there's been a lot of legislation as of late, trying to get through the fact that through collective bargaining, binding arbitration can set salary and benefits and take it out of the hands of local school boards and the negotiation process. The other one was the right to strike. The right to strike bill has come up at the state numerous times. It's been vetoed, once, and the binding arbitration is actually twice. And so Maine School Board Association, the committee is opposing those wholeheartedly.
I know, I did notice the change from multiple pathways.
Yes, yep,
It's almost like they're recognizing the credentialing piece
through that.
through that.
Yep. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk lately. I've actually been involved in some conversation about how to incorporate the technical centers on a different level. Looking at how it's been a lot. I actually had a meeting last year with Brian Langley, if you know that name, Senator Brian Langley, talking about the creation somewhere in the state of a comprehensive technical high school that would fall under this multiple pathways. There is money out there in places to start that process. So
There's an article on news this afternoon about the Green Ladle.
Yes.
And
Yep.
LRTC pumping seniors out to restaurants.
Yes.
To fill the worker shortage. I think it's a great idea.
Absolutely.
And it's not just seniors,
Right, not just seniors.
right? Adults, I think, adult
Yeah,
chefs
right,
or senior
right.
chefs or something.
I have always been in favor of a comprehensive technical high school. I think it has benefit for lots of different students. When I lived down south, that was something that was around. When I went to that national conference a couple of years ago, Kentucky has done a lot with that. Texas has done a lot with that. Massachusetts has reinvigorated that. So I think that's a pathway that will start coming in the state. I know there's been some talk about charter schools and that process, but currently the charter school slate is full per law. So I think there's going to be a lot of interesting conversation coming forward with that.
So does anybody have any problem with any of the bylaw changes or resolutions that were presented? The only one that concerns me is the goal of 90% graduation, especially if you're looking at the cohort timeframe.
Yes.
You know,
Yes, yes.
So
yes.
with my life experiences have taken me to a lot of different places. We were in Scotland when you got to a certain time period, in Germany as well. You kind of were put on a college path or you were put on a trades path, and then they educated you in those directions, which had a lot of benefits as long as people were properly classified. It worked out well. So, but I guess as long as students that aren't going to excel in the higher academics of a college path have the ability to graduate, then a 90% goal isn't bad. Right.
Well, I also hear what you're saying in that school districts should not be penalized if students go beyond the 4 years.
Absolutely.
And that has unfortunately been I think it's the federal policy of that, of being under that cohort timeline. And that goes against being able to specifically support every single student in being successful.
I think this resolution mentions 6 years, moving it to 6 years.
6 years.
I mean, that's truly what needs to happen, because there are many students that end up having just a couple of requirements left to finish, and they end up going through adult ed, which is absolutely perfect, but the district gets dinged every time, and that's not okay to have that happen. Because our ultimate goal is to make sure that kids get an education.
Right. Well, and if you remember correctly, quite a few years ago, you just had the 4-year cohort report.
Right.
Exactly.
They started to recognize that there
yes.
needed to be a 5th-year cohort. The
Yep.
problem was the way they publicized it.
Yes.
And so consequently, you're right, our graduation dropout rate, which are two very different things.
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
hard to understand. We've waded through that. I know Marco wades through that every year. I used to when I was at the high school.
I had to do
You've done that as well. So,
Yeah.
I think some of that's
Yeah.
real good, recognizing that the kids, not every kid can just finish in 4 years.
Correct.
They just can't, and that's okay. So.
Yeah.
All right, so if there's no heartburn or anything, then there's no vote required here on this, Robbie. I think you can represent the board well as the delegate.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 8.0 committee reports. Finance facilities will report at the next meeting. Personnel policy committee.
We did meet. We didn't elect a chair of the committee, so we do need someone to tell what we did. Christy, you want that?
Sure.
Thank you, Christy.
Yes, put her right on the spot. And reviewed one policy that we approved, which is classes, staff participation in political activities. So we put that policy on the books. We're currently working on the remote participation in school board meetings policy. We should hopefully have a draft of that by our next meeting.
So, and at this point, just remember our policy process. So that goes to the policy committee. I will revise what the policy committee has. I'll send it back out to the administrators to take a look at. It will then go back to policy committee just to make sure it's all good. And then it'll go through 2 readings at the board level.
Okay, any questions? Right, CAI Technology Committee.
Yes, we met and we had Mr. Carney join us, who is the point person for the mentor mentee program, and talked about the revision of the certification process for the district. In the past, the state has gone back and forth between new teachers having to have 2 or 3 years. I think we're back at a 2-year, but some people are finishing up 3. And the process is it's more streamlined now of having people involved in notification, because everything is done online at this point. So trying to make sure that not only do staff get the support that they need, but also know where they stand in the process as well, which is important. We also talked about process of gathering information to look at late start versus early release on Wednesdays. And it was decided that we need to gather information from all the stakeholders, parents, families, daycare facilities, and the staff. And due to contractual situations, we would need to be able to get that information, and potentially it would go into effect for the following school year. But again, there's many layers to it, and we want to make sure that everybody is heard to best serve and support. And that was it.
Questions? Thank you. This time we have board member comments. A board member would like to make a comment?
I would.
Oh, so Mike for comments, but not for your
Sure,
committee report.
right.
Yeah, okay.
Ta-da. I guess my biggest comment is the beginning of this school year causes a lot of strife for everyone. We want it to go as smoothly as possible. If you think back last year, there was a lot of complaining and understanding, but not happily, that we were going to be in a hybrid mode and the kids weren't going to be in school full time. And it was going to be something that we hadn't experienced before. We have made a commitment, this board, the staff, and all the people involved with children, that they will be in school 5 days a week. That means that we all, as Robbie had eloquently put it back at the beginning, we all have to buy in and support in the best way that we can to make sure that children are in school 5 days a week. Please know that we hear all of what you are saying. We acknowledge that. But we also know that overall as a collective, we have made the commitment to best serve your children to be here 5 days a week. Okay? So we welcome everybody working together to be able to best do that. Take a breath. We all have to take a breath, but we can do it together. Thank you.
Any other board comments? Yes, Robbie.
Yeah, I mean, I may as well address the 600-pound gorilla in the room. I think it's when we set up the criteria for the choice of masking and we went through the whole process, we wanted that system to work as far as we can get it to work. Well, 4 days it worked, and we're starting to come up with COVID cases if everybody is in a mask, it's the best way to keep kids in school 5 days a week. So I think even if we have to have a special board meeting, or we have to convene the CPT meeting and then have a special board meeting before our regular board meeting at the end of the month, I think that's something that we have to look into.
All right, so the CPT team was already scheduled to meet again, I think, next week,
Next week.
End of next week.
in the next week. That is still being set up and is going to happen.
Right.
And then any recommendation that they might make for changes to our current plan would come to the board at our next regular scheduled meeting, which was kind of the plan going in, is when we would address it, right?
Right.
I'm just wondering if that timetable needs to be moved up as far as us meeting after the CPT meeting.
When is that meeting?
Well, I think we're setting up for, is it Thursday or Friday of next week?
Friday of next week.
Friday of next week. So we're talking about, it's only a few days.
Right.
Hopefully, any recommendation to come out of there, if it was implemented 3 days sooner than what it is going to be implemented, if any change at all, we don't know, right? Won't have a dire consequence in that way. So I don't, at this point, special meetings, there's ways for special meetings to be called.
Right.
All right. But right now, I don't see calling one myself at this point, but rather wait until our next scheduled one. Those of you who, we all have access to the policy. If you don't know it on how to call a special meeting, if you feel it differently, then you can put that system process in effect if there's enough support for it to make a special meeting happen. All right. Any other board comments? So mine are, thank everybody that came. We know that there's a lot of opinions out there, that places divided, not only here in the school district, but throughout the country and probably even throughout the world. The school board is charged with providing education in a safe environment, because you can't provide education if the students and staff don't feel safe. So it kind of means we have to have a safe environment. And while we will never all agree on exactly what those measures are, to provide that, the board will, and I think in the past and every issue that we've addressed throughout my many years on the board, have listened to a lot of the information and evidence and people that we believe and trust to be experts in the field, and relied on their input and made the best decisions we could make based upon what we felt was going to provide the safest environment for the students and the best education that the taxpayers can afford. We're not looking for a Cadillac, but we don't want an Edsel. Well, maybe you don't know what an Edsel is. Well, it is now, you're right. Don't want to drive it, but we'll sell it, right? So again, thank you all for coming. We hear you. And we're going to hear a lot of different opinions and viewpoints, and the board, I'm sure, will make the best decision that it feels that it can make when we revisit this issue again. So at this time, we have an executive session that we added. Executive sessions are closed to the public. The only people that can be in there are the board members, the superintendent, and anybody specifically named in the motion, which in this case was the Kathy, Director of Curriculum. We do not take votes in executive session. We do not intend to take a vote on anything when we come out, so there is no other business. If you want to, we can adjourn until we're in open session. If you want to hang out someplace, when we're done with executive session, we'll open the doors and invite anybody back in. Same with people online. Thank you for attending.
Thanks, Larry.
If you want to, we'll put you out into a waiting room. I think the YouTube, I don't know how you handle the YouTube link. We have to shut that off, but there will be no action taken following that. So again, thank you for coming. At this time, I would entertain a motion to enter into an executive session with the Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056D, negotiation, excuse me, negotiations with educational support professionals.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you.
So we'll be in at 7:42.
All right, we gotta make sure we turn.